crafters, and welcome to Creative Moments by G. Monty and I were talking the other day and we had a real problem. We have used stamp sets over and over and over again, and we thought, how can we repurpose our stamps? We came up with an idea that we think you're going to love. So let's head down to the crafting table and let's get started. Now, this is the stamp set that we just keep using and we absolutely love it. But I'm going to show you a way to repurpose this, and make sure that you stay with us to the end because we're going to repurpose another stamp set too. Okay, the first thing I want you to do is cut you a top fold card. And this is simply 11 by 4 1/4, and we're going to score it at 5 1/2. And remember, all our measurements will be listed over on creativemomentsbyg.com. Now, the next thing, we went ahead and we cut some DSP. Look at that beautiful DSP. Because on our pumpkins today, we are going to be using rich raspberry, garden green, and mango melody. Those are the colors we'll use to color our flowers, which are going to help us repurpose our stamp set. So now I have taken the stamps from that beautiful stamp set, and I stamped 2 pumpkins, and then I stamped the top part that I'm going to use on the card. Let me show you what I'm going to do to repurpose this stamp set. Now, I have brought in another stamp set to help me with the repurposing, and this is called Simply Fabulous, because I'm going to use these flowers and these leaves to help me repurpose it. So I stamped my pumpkin. Now let me see, I'm going to get in a little closer. And now I'm going to bring in these stamps, and I'm going to stamp my flowers in rich raspberry. Because I am going to add an image to the top of our stamp to repurpose it, right? Instead of just coloring it like a pumpkin, we're going to go ahead and put an image on top of it. Now, you need to think about all the possibilities. What stamps do you have that you want to repurpose, and what can you use to stamp over them to make them look just a little different? So let's go ahead and just stamp our flower. Now, I'm kind of lining up the petals right there with the end of our pumpkin. Now, I'm going to stamp this one off just a little bit. It doesn't matter because we're going to use our dies to cut this out. And now I'm just going to stamp it one more time. And I'm stamping it with a really dark ink pad. Now, if you don't have some dark ink pads, you could always go in and you could bring in your blend to color. And I'm going to show you I do this on the leaves. Let's go ahead and bring in our leaves now. Now I'm using a dark ink pad, garden green. And we're just going to stamp right here. Now it won't be as dark as I wanted because I want it to actually look like it's an image on top of the pumpkin. You know how you buy the ornamental pumpkins and they have paintings on them? That's what I'm looking for. So I'm just going to go ahead and stamp a little bitty leaf right there. And I am going to bring in my blend that is dark shaded spruce. And I'm going to go ahead and just color in those leaves just a little bit. I'm going to use the brush end of my blend, and I'm just very lightly going over the leaf just to give it some more dimension. Now look how pretty that looks. Doesn't that look better? So let's just finish up our leaves. And now I'm going to bring in the dark Daffodil Delight and just color in these insides of the flower. Now we're going to start coloring our pumpkins. I'm going to bring in the bronze and I'm going to color the stem. And now I'm just going to use my dark and my light pumpkin pie, but I think I'm also going to use just a little bit of this bronze over the areas that they show you should be shadowed. Those are our shadows. So we're just going to go over those already. And now I'm going to bring in the light pumpkin pie, and that's just going to add some highlights to my pumpkin. And I'm just very lightly going over the bronze with the light pumpkin pie just to lighten it up just a little bit. Now look at that. Isn't that pretty? It gives you a whole different feel on this pumpkin. Now I'm going to use a coordinating color to go ahead and color this pumpkin, and I'm going to bring in the dark and the light rich raspberry. So once again, I'm going to use my brush nib, and I'm just going over those areas that they told us they want to create that little shadow. So just those dotted lines. And also down the seams of the pumpkin. I went ahead and I stamped the sentiment that we're going to use on the front of the card. So let's go ahead and color that too. I want to make it bright and lively, so we're going to use our dark pumpkin pie right here in the middle, and I'm going to use my brush nib so that I can get full coverage very quickly. Now let's turn it over. You know that you've done your coloring correctly when you see it bleed into the back of your paper. And that's why you want to make sure that you have a piece of paper down when you color using these blends, because they will bleed through, and that's good because it means they're juicy. So let's go ahead and cut these out and let's get them laid down on our card. So we have our pumpkins cut out, and we have cut out some beautiful DSP. This really picks up the rich raspberry color that you can barely see, but we love this design. We're going to go ahead and lay it down as a first mat. And then we're going to put this piece of white paper down as our second mat. But before we do that, see how bright it looks? Well, what we like to do as another technique is we like to go ahead and blend this a little bit with our color. So let me show you how to do that. We're simply taking our blending brush. We're going to bring in the rich raspberry. And because we don't want it very dark, you need to be careful how much ink you bring to your paper. So go ahead and tap it very lightly. And also when you're working with these brushes, the closer you get to the head, the more pressure you're going to put. So if possible, go ahead and keep your finger back here. And we're going to start off the paper and just barely come on very lightly, just to give it a hint of color. And you really won't even notice it that much. It's just that it won't look like that bright white. And there we have it, just a hint of color. Let's lay that down on our card. And now we're going to set these up on dimensionals, but we're going to set this one down behind it. So let's go ahead and lay this one flat, about right there. And then the pretty one, the one that has helped us repurpose our stamp, we're going to set it up on some dimensionals. We're going to also set the sentiment up on dimensionals. Now we have another card to show you too, actually, where we have repurposed something that you might have. So stay with us. And now this does come with some leaves that you can actually cut out. And I will show you that later. Another one that we did, that we cut the leaves out, which really adds to its beauty. But let's go ahead and do the inside. You might want to go ahead and shade just a little bit here. And that's if you do a pumpkin or you do some flowers. So let's go ahead and just stamp some flowers on the inside. And bring in those leaves. Now you might want to go ahead and just use the leftover ink that you have and just very lightly kind of go over it, just a little bit. It just makes it pop. So let's add this to the inside of our card. And I love how this flower helped us repurpose this pumpkin that we have used so much. But now look at this pumpkin. We repurposed it too, but we added the greenery right there. That really adds a nice touch to these pumpkins. I will go back and add the green vine right here. Now remember I said that we wanted to show you another stamp set you could repurpose. Look at this one. If you have this basket or a basket, you might get tired of just stamping the basket. Well, what can you do? Well, you can bring in some flowers to stamp on the basket. You can also bring in these flowers to stamp on the basket. And let me show you that. Look at this beautiful card. Now, this is not cut out. This is flat. And what we did is we put a mask right here and we stamped the basket over it. And then we peeled off the mask. And that allowed us to come back in and color that flower. Now, look at this beautiful one. Once again, this is flat. This is not a flower that we cut out and stuck on the basket. On this one, we actually stamped the paper with our flower first. Then we put a mask over it. Then we brought in our stamp and stamped over it. Now when you do this, you need to rock it a little bit so that you get the edges and you get really close because it is hitting that mask. So here you go. What do you think about these beautiful flowers? What do you think about repurposing your stamps? I really like how this flower allowed us to make the pumpkin just a little bit different. Well, we hope you enjoyed our Tuesday technique today. We certainly did. We love repurposing our stamps and continuing to squeeze every little bit of creativity out of them. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.